Someone just asked me, how do I know when I'm actually connected to the spirit world or not? Well, today, for me, this is obvious because I've been doing it for so many years. But I remember in the beginning, I had a hard time to separate the spirit energy from someone else's energy, because we are still a spirit, we are still a soul. It's just in a living body or someone who has deceased. So it's a slight difference in the energy. And if you look at a person, and if you look at the soul and your spirit and how that radiates throughout you, and you have your auric field. In your auric field, if you're a good psychic, for example, that means that you can read intuitively another person's energy field. You have a storage house there. From when you was born to where you are today, all that you've been through in your whole life is in your auric field. And the more you practice, the better you can become at reading what has happened to that person, what they've been going through, emotions, things that have happened and whatever. You can also read who they have lost to the spirit world, because it's in their mind. And if they are in bereavement, if you lose something, it will be in the forehead, in the front of your mental aura, your emotional aura, that you are grieving someone. And if you don't know the difference, how to contact the spirit world, you can actually pick up a lot of information from the person you're reading, and they might think that you have their relative with you. For me, I can only describe how it feels for me. It's that if I read something from another person's energy, it's slower, it's colder, there's no activity in it. If I connect to the spirit world, not only I get a buzz, it also usually happens that the sitter get the emotions that I get from the spirit world, and it affects them quite deeply. But how to learn the difference? Well, first of all, you have to learn to not look at the person in front of you when you're working, because then you will draw the energy from the person in front of you. So instead of doing that, rather make eyes on the wall or whatever. Don't look at the person you're reading, and keep focus behind your head. It's not like spirit is standing behind your head. It's not like they're standing behind someone who is sitting there. Spirit energy is everywhere. But by keeping focus behind you, it means that you're not pulling the energy from the sitter. And that means that you easier can learn when it comes from the spirit, when it comes from the sitter. And like I said, yes, you can give all the information from the auric field, but sometimes you get from the spirit information that they don't know, that they have to go home and check out. You have definitely not read it in the auric field then. But I also believe it takes a little bit of practice. So when you're reading people, you're trying to work with the spirit, you're reading people, you work with the spirit. After a while, you get a sense when you're there or with your sitter. But one thing to remember, who is very easy, because a lot of people say, I don't know if it is the spirit world or if it is me. Well, the spirit world can't work without you, so it has to be a partnership. It is a teamwork. And the only thing they can use is your imagination and your life experience, your whole indoctrination and what you've been through. That's the experience you can draw from when you try to interpret the energy that's coming from them. And of course, many medium, including myself, a lot of time assume a lot. Because if they give me an energy that I almost recognize, my mind will do an interpretation, and the sitter will go, no, that's not correct. So for me, a no is never no. Then I have to go back and see, why did my mind interpret it this way? Did I assume that because this is the most normal thing for me? Or do I have to go back and see if there is another meaning behind it? So for me, when I'm teaching my students and when I'm working myself, there are no no's. There's just more learning. And I find that been a breakthrough, especially for myself, when I learned that not punish myself for making a mistake, drop it and move on. Because if I did that, the only thing I remember was the thing I dropped, the thing I missed. So now I'm going back to see how I can sort it out. What else does it mean? So for example, very, very silly, all my students have heard this. In the beginning when I started to work and I got the pressure on my head, I knew someone had died from a stroke. Well, it worked for so long, maybe a year and a half, maybe. And suddenly I know I'm in Gothenburg working in a society somewhere in Sweden. And I do 8 sittings, and I think I got that pressure on my head about 6 times of 6 of the clients of the 8. And it was only one died from a stroke. So when the second and the third say no, I thought I lost it. Yeah, I lost it. But on the third, on the fourth, on the fifth, I actually started to ask them, why do I feel a pressure on the head? Maybe you can give me an explanation. And then they said, well, my dad died from a tumor in the head. Mine had a fall. They have epileptic fits, so they hit the head. You know, it can be all sorts of things. So from a stroke now, it is several things. I'm sorry for that noise. That was just my phone from my iPad, because my phone is on soundless. So I was sounding up. So from every time I get the now, I'm learning something more. It's like I'm polishing that little diamond, you know, and I get more and more understanding, and I get more and more little facets to work from. And that's why I find mediumship so incredibly exciting, because it's a never-ending story. Every time I work, I learn something more and something new, and it's so amazing. Because I'm also a person who gets bored very easily. So for example, in the beginning, when I started my journey, I always said, oh, I wish I could hear them like you hear me now. But can you imagine if I had the spirit world and they all the time said, my name is Bertil, I lived in London, and I go, I have a man here, his name is Bertil, and he lived in London. And if I should be that repetitive medium every time for every, there's no challenge in it. So even though it might be a nice work as a medium, but I don't think I would be working as a medium. I could just sit in the grocery store with a till and just scan all the grocery when they're coming through, because it would be just as exciting. So when I work with a mediumship, I find it extremely exciting, because in my world, it's like I'm making a jigsaw puzzle. And first of all, I want the cornerstones. That's my 4 pieces of information that should establish the contact. Then I put the framework in, and then I build a story, so the whole puzzle gets laid. And a lot of people ask spirit a lot of questions. What did you work with? What's your hobby? What did you die from? I never ask the questions. Never. Because who am I to think that I know what they want to talk about? So I just ask them, give me something. And whatever they're giving me, I'm working with, and I'm trusting they know better than me. That's my way of working. And I believe everybody has their own uniqueness and have to find their own way to work. But one thing that has helped me a lot is that to make it as easy as I can for me. I hate being insecure. I hate it. I hate getting anxiety. I hate feeling lost, that I don't know what I'm doing. And so I want a little bit of control. So I've always said to the spirit when I start my work, even if it's a private sitting, 1-to-1, or if I'm doing a demonstration, I want to know who I'm with me. I want to know if I have a mom or a dad or a sister or a brother, whoever. Because if I don't know who I'm working with, my mind will try to find it. Who are you? And it actually disturbs. So I usually start with a relationship. And that means also that if I have a mom, for example, I can use my whole experience as a mom myself, as my relationship to my mom. My mom was her mom. And it's also, if I say I have a woman here, she's in her 70s, and she died of a heart attack. But if I say I have your mom here, it's such much more impact. And the healing, you know, when you understand the mom and you can use that emotion, for me, it's so much more vibrant instead of I have a lady, it can be anybody, but I actually have your mom. Your mom. It has so much more meaning for me, but that's me. And we're all different, and I always encourage differences. You know, it's important that you find your own uniqueness, your own way of working. And I know a lot of people say that you should go to one medium and practice with that medium, and sorry, but I'm the total opposite. If I would have gone to one only medium, I would be a copycat of that, and I don't like that. I have gone to so many mediums during my development to learn from a lot of different teaching aspects and different point of view, how they see the work, how they are working, and I'm picking the best of the best that can suit me. And yes, we are quite similar, a lot of us, but there will always be differences. No one can be on the same conscious level. No one will work on the same way. And just remember, if you're a working medium and you're doubting yourself, always remember that you will never ever be able to judge yourself, because you will always look at the mistakes and you will not see the good things. So if the client are happy, be happy. Just realizing if you're doing the best you can at any given moment in time, you're doing your job. And there has to be mistakes here and there, otherwise you wouldn't grow, you wouldn't become better at your craft. So don't be too hard on yourself out there. Enjoy it, experiment with it, and have fun. Bye.